Today I want to create an orchid armature, and Phalaenopsis orchids is what I'm going to be using today, and a Phalaenopsis is probably one of the most popular orchids that we see. Now orchids are epiphytes, and epiphytes are plants that attach themselves to other plants, but they're not symbiotic. Symbiotic means that they take nutrients from them, whereas an epiphyte, all it does is use it for support, and that's what we're doing with our armature today. We're just creating a support structure for our Phalaenopsis orchid. So I'm going to start with 12 pieces of 18 gauge wire and some floral tape, and I'm going to take these 12 pieces together and I'm going to make that armature that is a pretty standard armature for lots of things that we could do. If you go to some of my other videos, you'll be able to see some different things that we do with this particular structure. And that's what's really fun about creating, is using a technique and then seeing how many different ways, or learning a technique and learning how to do it in so many different ways. That's what I think is just really fun. It's like, take it and make it your own. So we're just going to divide these into two groups all around. So we're going to end up with 6 groups of this 18 gauge wire. And this isn't very decorative, of course. This is mechanical, and that's okay because we're going to make it decorative. So then you start, as I have explained before, 2 fingers in between the two, and just do 3 twists. And you do that all the way around for each grouping of 2. And you want to twist the same way each and every time. What that does is gives us stability, and it gives us also just it fits all together. It looks really nice, and that it's all symmetrical. That's the word I'm looking for, is symmetrical. Anyway, so we're going to just continue all the way around and just make this structure 3 twists all the way through. 1, 2, 3, and make our little looks like a flower at the very beginning here when we start this. 3 twists. So we have our 3 twists and our little flower that's towards that very center. So we're going to take this next step and to take it another further and do the next grouping, keep continuing that all the way around. So I'm just going to use my fingers, and we're going to do so you do end up doing 3 rows all the way around. We're going to make it into kind of like a bowl shape or a cup shape to hold this orchid. So we take it all the way through and just keep doing those 3 twists and just unifying those spaces that we're making into circles and spaces all the way around. Now once you get to this point, you have a couple different options. If these are too long, you can just take your scissors and you can cut them, or your wire cutters, and cut them so that they're pretty uniform all the way around. Sometimes in the bending doesn't always come out symmetrical. So, but you create this form, and so then we're going to bend it up so that it becomes kind of a vessel or a cup for our orchid. Now I've taken one here and I've spray painted it silver so that it can kind of work in with the decor that I'm trying to make with that. So then we're going to take this and fill it full of moss. And here I just have Spanish moss. You can use sphagnum moss, you use whatever moss that you have. It could be reindeer moss, whatever that you have. And I'm just going to kind of fill this. And then I've taken an orchid out of its pot, and you can see the roots, and I want to keep the roots intact and just kind of tuck that down inside. And you're going to take, let me take my vase here and just set this down inside. That stem just kind of gives us a little bit of stability on that armature that we created. And I'm just going to fold this wire in just so that we have that security, and it creates this moss ball around the orchid. So I'm able then to build this structure right around it. And from here, what I want to do is I want to add the detail parts of this. So I'm going to take, this is bead wire from Smithers Oasis. And I like using bead wire just because of the volume that it creates. So I'm going to just twist that around and just keep adding that to this orchid. And of course, depending upon the vessel that you set it in is going to vary accordingly to how long you want that stem to be. So we wrap that around, and you want it around the part that's visible above your vessel, whatever vase that you're going to use. If I was going to use a clear bowl, I wouldn't have that stem. I would cut that stem completely off. But you still have to have that binding point for your armature to create that moss ball, and then just set it inside of this, because then you could see down and you wouldn't be able to see a stem below. But with a solid color, you can let it be any way that you want to. The next thing that I'm going to do is take, this is just bead wire. These are smaller beads than what the mega beads are. Again, a Smithers Oasis product. And just wrap this around, as you can see. And we'll get control of our orchid here in just a moment. So you keep wrapping that around, and you just keep going. From here, I would probably go with a little bit of bouillon, just to kind of keep going. Now, you could use many different products to do this with. It could just be jute if you want it to be. It could be some decorative ribbon if you wanted it to be. It could be many different products that you can use. Whatever you have on hand would make it good. Now, to water this, because you want to avoid, if you've got some fabric materials, you don't want to get it too wet. But what I would suggest to water this is just to take it over the sink about maybe every week and a half to 2 weeks, depending upon your environment that you have your orchid, and just wet the roots. You don't want to wet the leaves or get anything else. You don't want to miss them. You want to just get the roots wet and just let that drain out, and then put it back into your container. Well, let's leave this here. I'm going to take you apart. Let me show you one then that is completely done. Beautiful. So we'll take this orchid, we've got the stem, I've got it all wrapped with all the different types of beads that we want. In addition that I've added to this, you can probably see, is that I've added some fairy lights to this. And this can go down inside of the vase, and then your stem goes down and supports that orchid plant. Now, the other thing that I've done too, if you can see, is that I've taken some of these mega beads and cut them into just 2 little beads, and use those as my binding instead of that little clip or that wire that's showing on here. What that does is it creates repetition, because this is still a design. You've got your focal area, you've got your line movement, and the using of the mega beads in multiple places, or it could be any of the beads, any type of wire that you're using. If you repeat that, then you have repetition in your design work that you're creating. So it's really fun to try to come up with different ways than to display your orchids. This is fun for events and weddings. So many different things that you can do with orchid plants.